I'm Cheryl Chumley. This is Bold and Blunt, giving you a Christian conservative view of news, politics, culture, and events. Gal Kalev, I want to thank you for being on Bold and Blunt. So great to catch up with you on your trip to Washington, D.C.
Well, Cheryl, it's such an honor to be here in Washington and a humbling experience to be here on Capitol Hill in front of Congress.
Gal, let's talk about the displaced families in Israel, because months later after the attack, Hamas on Israel, there are still thousands of Jewish families who are living as if they are refugees in their own nation. Can you talk a little bit about how that's going in Israel and what is being done for those families?
Yeah, we've it's been over 9 months, and when you are in Israel, you see people are in high morale. But the reality is that you have so many families, so many people who are still in Gaza as hostages, but you also have individuals who are soldiers who are fighting in Gaza. And these are not just enlisted soldiers. These are people who are in their 30s and 40s, fathers, business owners who've abandoned their business, lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, factory workers, everybody who joined the effort and is fighting in Gaza. So this is a reality. And in addition to that, we have people who are displaced from their home, especially in the north. Basically, there's been an ethnic cleansing, if you will, of Jews from northern Israel. So this is a very, very dire situation. But Cheryl, I want to assure you that we are in very good morale. We are fighting as one. All of Israel is behind this, and we're behind our troops in Gaza.
The Biden administration continues to push a ceasefire deal that doesn't seem in the best interests of Israel. Talk a little bit about that. Whenever there's war, you have, an enemy on the other side that's fighting you. But in Israel's case, it's not just an enemy on the other side that's fighting you. We have all sorts of constraints, coming from the media, coming from the West, coming from the ICC, coming from the UN, and coming, sadly, from Washington, that curtails our ability to fight this war. And the issue of the ceasefire is quite almost like funny because we are here on a mission to try to obliterate Hamas, try to return our hostages, try to change the reality in Gaza. And the only entity that can decide when is the good time to do this is the state of Israel. To his credit, people in the United States, both in the administration and behind us in Congress, acknowledge it and say that. But we're fighting a war against a brutal terrorist organization. We are fighting the front line of the Western war against terrorism. In a situation like this, we just want to have the support. We want to believe that the United States and our allies can just say, we have your back, go and do the job. Talk a little bit about the hostage negotiations and how those are going.
Hamas is not just going to release the hostages out of the good of the will. They will only do that when they realize they're about to be obliterated. So the military, this whole idea of don't go into Rafah, and again, Israel should be the one who makes this decision. And we are fortunate to have the most moral army in the world, not by Israeli standards, but by international standards. And sadly, war has a lot of horrible things that are associated with it, both on our side and the Palestinian side. In humanitarian crisis, we spoke about how this humanitarian crisis is to a greater degree the fault of the West, because rather than allow those people in Gaza who want to leave Gaza and go elsewhere, their pressure is on Israel to deal with that. There's a lot of people in Gaza who want one thing, which is to leave Gaza. The United States can spend its political capital on dealing with Egypt, providing incentives and assurances that there are safe passageways outside of Gaza into places where they're safe, at least for the time being. But that's not been the focus. The focus has been on pressuring Israel to stop his assault on Hamas. That doesn't make sense from a military point of view.
Gal, you have a book called Judaism 3.0, and in it you discuss the assaults on the Jewish people and anti-Zionism, and you say that it's coming from the West. Talk a little bit about that.
Cheryl, we've spoken quite a few times that there's an assault on Judaism that is occurring through Zionism. Every once in a while, every few centuries, there's a large-scale assault on Judaism, and it always happens to the most relevant aspect of Judaism at this time. In our era, as we spoke many times, it's through Zionism. We're in Judaism 3.0. Zionism has become the anchor of Judaism, and therefore it's no surprise that Judaism is being attacked through Zionism. Zionism or Israel's policy is not the reason for the attack on Judaism. That's the most relevant aspect, and that's why it's being funneled this way. And let's just be clear: it's not about Israel's policy. This is an assault that's been going on for a long time. And as we also spoke, Cheryl, the bulk of this assault is coming from the West. The assault on Judaism in the ICC, and even, it trickles down, it's a layered assault. We have the hardcore Israel bashers that, we are demonstrated, the pro-Palestinian demonstrators, and also those who are sadly have done very well in the French parliament from the left-wing party, who just denied or basically refused to condemn October 7th, who denied that Israel has a right to fight back against Hamas in the same way that others do. So there's the hardcore Israel bashers, but Israel bashing trickles down to other people as well, to what I call the Israel bashers light. And look what's happening here in Washington. Look what's happening. I mean, we had right here behind me on the Senate floor, one of Israel's greatest friends, Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer, who is a friend of Israel and prides himself, fashions himself as being the guardian of Israel, goes on the Senate floor and insinuates that the Jewish state is a pariah opposed by the rest of the world, which is exactly what we've been accused of throughout the centuries. But because there's a transformation of Judaism, it's no longer the Jews, it's a Jewish state. It's no longer the Jewish people or the Jews in general, but it's Israel who is the pariah that's opposed by the rest of the world, as Chuck Schumer insinuates. We also have seen it, the attack on Israel, the attack on Judaism through Israel bashing manifests itself in any other ways, and certainly to this ludicrous idea of the open-end sanction regime that's been instituted by this administration. The sanctions against Israeli Jews, first they sanctioned criminals, some thugs, then they sanctioned organizations. Eventually they try to sanction military units who are fighting this war. War is a zero-sum game. And now organizations that, Israelis is a very vocal society, as you know, and people on the left, on the right, block roads, do all kinds of things that maybe would not be tolerated here. In Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem, roads are blocked by people that are associated with the left or people that are opposed to Netanyahu. Families of the hostages and supporters blocked trucks that were coming into Gaza because they said, well, we don't support that that kind of, if our children are not entitled to humanitarian assistance in Gaza, why should they? So guess what the United States does? They sanction those individuals and that organization, the organization that basically, I'm not justifying the actions of blocking trucks coming into Gaza, just like I'm not justifying the actions of blocking roads in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem, by the idea that the United States, heartlessly would issue sanctions against the people who are expressing their opinion in this kind of granted civil disobedience, unlawful way, is just very sad.
Israel bashing, as you and I have discussed previously, is a national security interest. Could you sort of flush that out a bit?
Cheryl, as we spoke, Israel bashing and anti-Zionism is not a subset of anti-Semitism. It is a U.S. national security issue, and it should be treated as a U.S. national security matter. And we can just look at what's been happening over the last few months. The ICC has announced that the prosecutor, that he's going to seek the arrest of Israeli Prime Minister and of the Israeli Defense Minister, and basically have set the stage for arresting all Israelis. Because as we spoke, Israeli reservists, we're all serving the army, and the rest of us are doing whatever we can for the army to succeed. According to the ICC, what the army is doing is starving Palestinian children, is doing extrajudicial killing, and all sorts of other things. All the same slander that the Jews have been accused throughout the centuries, starving European children, all that kind of stuff, the Jewish state is now being accused of.
The media actually play into this Israel bashing as well, right?
We have to understand that Israel bashing is not just on the radical people who you see in pro-Palestinian demonstrations. It trickles down. It trickles down to everything that we see here in Washington. And sadly, I've been having a lot of conversations here, and I'm quite stunned of the degree that people incorporate this sort of Israel bashing rhetoric into their day-to-day conversations, and I hope that this will change. I'll add one more thing, Cheryl. You asked earlier about we spoke about the debate and President Trump, and when we were walking here. And one of the questions that Dana Bash, who's a fine journalist, respectable journalist, you can agree, not agree with her, but she's a mainstream journalist. She asked President Trump, would you support the establishment of an independent Palestinian state
to end the conflict in the Middle East, or to bring peace in the Middle East. And that is the most, ludicrous idea, because you can ask the same question in 2005. Would you support unilateral disengagement from Gaza to bring peace in the Middle East? That didn't bring the unilateral disengagement. That didn't bring peace. That brought October 7th. And same in Lebanon in 2000. You can ask President Clinton at that time, would you support Israel unilaterally withdrawing from Lebanon to bring peace in the Middle East? That's what Israel did. We got a UN resolution that Hezbollah is not supposed to be in the southern border. They are. And this is what we have now, a de facto war in the north with Hezbollah because of those actions. So framing a question, and sadly a lot of the conversations I have here in Washington are along this, if we only have a two-state solution, state of Palestine will have peace. Evidence is exactly to the contrary throughout the history, and evidence are like that now. So I'm very concerned that the Israel bashing and the assault on Judaism that's coming from the West and trickles down through mainstream circle, through Israel bashing and anti-Zionism is shaping minds, and I hope that this will change.
It was great to have you on Bold and Blunt, Gal. Especially great to see you in our nation's capital.
The United States is rooted in the ideological bedrock of Americanism, just like Israel is rooted in the ideological bedrock of Zionism. We spoke in the past about the chasm that is developing between Europeanism and Americanism and their sphere of influence. For me to be here speaking with you in front of Capitol Hill, we've spoken earlier to policemen and firemen and other brave people here that serve the country. And just seeing all those wonderful people, the citizens of America and people who are visiting here, is a humbling experience. So I'm so glad we've done it here. And I look forward to chatting with you more.
All right, Gal, we'll talk soon. Thank you for another great Bold and Blunt segment.